We've all gone through our phases in the past. Chopper Pete was a parkour expert. Ollie Davis once sold used socks out of the back of his dad's Morris Marina. Laurie once killed a guy, and Luke found great success under his previous gimmick, multi-Academy Award winner Hilary Swank. Pretty much every WWE wrestler you can name has a weird alter ego tucked away deep in their closet, or a weird prop gimmick that never worked. John Moxley was British and Puerto Rican wrestling promotions for some reason. The Rock's initial name was Flex Cabana, replete with that hair. And Season's Greetings Kane, no one's gonna forget the Christmas creature. Mostly though, when wrestlers make it to the big dub, that's where they finally find themselves, carving out an identity that will become forever linked with their name, mostly. It's time to open up the history books as we share 10 weird WWE gimmicks you forgot wrestlers had. Before we get into it though, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to WrestleTalk so you're always notified when we drop more of that embarrassing wrestler content you love. Number 10, evil rugby player Cesaro. For a man who's never had enough personality for WWE to award him a sustained push, Cesaro sure has had a lot of nicknames and gimmicks, huh? The King of Swing, the Swiss Superman, yodeling, saying things in 5 languages, Aksana, being a James Bond-themed strippergram. But did you know his starting gimmick was evil rugby player? Antonio Cesaro debuted in April 2012 against his future partner in headphones, Tyson Kidd, no less, to kick ass and cuck Teddy Long, and he's all out of ass. Wearing tape around his thighs, which was the rugby custom at the time. According like most of Cesaro's gimmicks, it was eventually left behind until all that is left is his current shtick, the best wrestler in WWE to have never won a world championship. Number 9, I want to say a Jewish Deadpool? Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana is one of the greatest independent wrestlers of all time, not necessarily because he's the best in the ring, he's very good, but mostly because he was one of the first major names to prove that you could make a living on the independents, because he certainly didn't make one during his brief few months on SmackDown as Scotty Goldman. Despite wrestling as Colt Cabana in OVW and being TV champion, he was rechristened Scotty Goldman once Vince McMahon found out he was Jewish. It's really hard to pin down Goldman's gimmick, like he has Biff Pow sock explosions on his tights, so maybe he's a comic book nerd. He was also hit people with the rear view, so maybe he was a goofball. He did the Dusty Rhodes leg wiggle and hit the bionic elbow, so maybe he's Cody's dad. And the only times he was allowed to speak on camera, he interviewed a paper bag dressed as the Great Khali and then put it in his mouth. And then also one time drew attention to the fact he was in a picture-in-picture interview and tried talking to himself from... So maybe it's a fourth wall. What? It's weird. And Goldman was sent packing after less than 6 months with a win record of 0%, so... Number 8, incestuous twin Paul Burchill. Oh no. Pirate Paul Burchill is one of the most cherished weird little footnotes in wrestling history. His finisher, the C4, was rad. Swinging down to the ramp on a rope was rad. And the one time he made William Regal dress as his pirate wench was, well, it's not all gold. But while most hardcore fans can well remember Pirate Paul, many of us have tried to scrub from our minds Weird wants to his sister Paul. WWE is just your average family-friendly company that has on multiple occasions literally flirted with on-screen incest. Mark Henry had a sexual experience with his sister, which he admitted to in an interview. Vince McMahon, in character, I should point out about that, Mark Henry, that's very important, in character. Vince McMahon was floated as the father of his daughter Stephanie's baby. The Beaver Cleavage character desperately wanted to boink his mom. And then there's this. From 2008 to 2010, Paul Burchill appeared sporadically on WWE TV, accompanied by his kayfabe sister, Katie Lee. And from their very first promo, it was clear where WWE was going. Katie was stroking Paul's arm, talking about how beautiful her brother was and how whatever Katie wants, Katie gets. And apparently, what Katie wanted was that Pirate D. After WWE went PG in mid-2008, a few months later, the incest side of it was dropped, leaving Burchill with pretty much nothing to do, which was still an improvement. Number 7, Golga, Earthquake. John Tenta is often regarded as one of the most talented big men in professional wrestling, actually starting as a sumo wrestler in Japan with an over 20-match winning streak under his considerable belt. In the world of pro wrestling, John Tenta has had a number of gimmicks, some of which were really successful, like Earthquake, winning the tag belts as part of the Natural Disasters. Some, like the Shark, were not, but still pretty memorable. Look at that singlet. No, but just look at that singlet, though. Look at the singlet. But who remembers John Tenta's final gimmick when he returned to the WWF in the mid-90s? Probably not many, considering that he wore a pervert's choice leather mask throughout the entirety of it. Tenta was Golga in The Oddities, a stable of misfits featuring Giant Silver, Kurgan, Luna Vachon, and Golga, whose gimmick was he had a deformed face, poor John Tenta, and an unsettling love of Cartman from South Park. He spent most of his time wearing a Cartman shirt and carrying a Cartman plushie around and dancing. Wrestling's f***ing weird forever. Number 6, Johnny Polo, Raven. Normally in the journey from gross teenager to gross adult, people throw away their ripped denim in favor of khakis and their foul-smelling plaid in favour of polo shirts. Raven, always a counterculturalist, did it the other way around. One of the most iconic wrestling gimmicks of the 90s. Few can forget the image of Raven, sat in the corner of the ring, his leather jacket, his shredded jort, his Christ-like pose, a twisted, angry poet, a psychotic cult leader, and the face of disenfranchised 90s grunge. Cut to 2 years earlier in WWF, and here's Johnny Polo, a preppy rich kid managing the Quebecers and coming to the ring with a polo mallet and enough pastel shirts to render you legally blind. It is unfathomable that they are the same person. Raven's career in TNA and beyond has proved that he's more than capable of reinventing himself in startling ways. Here's looking at you, Serotonin Raven, with the weird mouth jacket thing, but the journey from Johnny Polo to Raven may very well be the most drastic 180-degree gimmick change in wrestling history. Also, look, here he is in WCW as Scotty Flamingo, a surfer. Quoth the Raven, cowabunga. Number 5, who? Jim Neidhart. Where? WWF. When? 1996. Why? Fuck knows. Who? Yes. So, Jim the Anvil Neidhart was one of the most recognizable wrestlers in the 90s, from his work in the Great Heart Foundation to his pointy beard to his work in the even greater Heart Foundation in 97. The Anvil was a well-known and fairly popular gimmick. For reasons that I can only assume are almost definitely cocaine-related, Vince and Co. decided to repackage Neidhart in 1996 as a masked wrestler called Who, so that those in commentary could run their own interminable imitation of the classic vaudeville bit, Who's on First. Yes, while WCW was changing the game with the NWO, WWE were recycling comedy bits from 59 years earlier. Who's in the ring? Yes, do you get it? The man in the ring is who? What? Who is in the ring? That's Savio Vega. No, who is wrestling Savio Vega? Exactly. And then your nose starts to bleed. Number 4, make a difference, Fatu, Rikishi. Rikishi's had a list of gimmicks in WWE that's as big as his own bodacious bum. He was a savage wild man in the Head Shrinkers. He played a dollar store Bane in the form of the Sultan. Then he was a happy-go-lucky buttocks jiggler, then a happy-go-lucky vehicular murderer, and then a happy-go-lucky buttocks jiggler again. But in amongst all that silliness, do you all remember Make a Difference Fatu? For the briefest of spells in 1995, Rikishi was repackaged from head shrinker Fatu into a far more eloquent man growing up on the mean streets of, checks notes, Sunnydale, California. Wait, that's Sunnydale. I would 100% watch a show about Rikishi hunting vampires. Unfortunately, it wasn't as cool as that. Instead, Fatu was all about telling kids to stay in school, to not do drugs, and instead chill out, max, and relax all cool. And at some point, he probably sat the wrong way on a chair to try and keep it real with you. He'd end all of his vignettes with Make a Difference, which was ironic because he was almost immediately repackaged, never to be heard from again. Number 3, Impersonator, Charlie Haas. Oh man, the world's greatest tag team was awesome. Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas, the original American alpha under the tutelage of Kurt Angle, mixing up with some of the best tag bouts of the early Ruthless Aggression era. The two men went their separate ways, with Shelton Benjamin trying a bunch of different gimmicks like the Gold Standard or having a mother. Charlie Haas had a tougher time of things. Without a gimmick, he found himself off TV for months at a time, and then they gave him a gimmick, and oh no, a full 6 years before Damien Sandow started playing weekly dress-up, before Curtis Axel started Axelmania, there was Charlie Haas, who appeared on Raw from mid to late 2008, dressing up as various other WWE superstars because WWE's sense of humor has gangrene. He was Charlito, Charles Cena, Charlie Haas Layfield, come on guys, JCL is right there, Jim Haas, the Great Charlie, okay, that's actually uncanny, Haas Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Haastin, the Glamour Haas Beth Phoenix, Bret Haas, MVC, and Santa Claus. Like, genuinely though, that's stupid and didn't get him over, but bless Charlie Haas. He really went for it, but never got his Mizdow moment. Number 2, businessman with a big watch, Roman Reigns. Before the Tribal Chief became quite possibly the best gimmick of the year, it was impossible to imagine Roman Reigns outside of his Shield fatigues. However, for 1 month back in NXT in 2012, 1 month before he debuted at Survivor Series in that turtleneck, Roman Reigns was a completely different character. When someone would interview him, he would point to his big watch, say that they were operating on Reigns time, before delaying the interview by taking, and I'm not making this up, a Reigns check. So he would be the big dog. But you know what? Going back and watching those Look at My Big Business Dick promos, there is a significant amount of the Tribal Chief in there. Like, goddamn, WWE miscast him for years, huh? And number 1, Hulk Hogan's war bonnet. Look at Hulk Hogan's stupid hat. How am I just now finding out about Hulk Hogan's stupid hat? Good lord. Sorry, in 1988, the story goes that the Hulkster was losing his hair and getting pretty sensitive about it, so he wanted to start wearing a hat. That's a very silly explanation, but you know, Hulk Hogan. So WWE, ever ready to merchandise another bit of Hulk Hogan absolute bollocks, slapped this together, the patented once at a Madison Square Garden house show to hand Bad News Brown his first loss. The ref went down, both men fought over who would get to wear the world's stupidest hat outside Jamiroquai's closet before Hogan put it on. That's our list. What are your favourite weird WWE gimmicks that never caught on? Let us know below in the comments. Don't forget to like and share this video around, and make sure you subscribe to WrestleTalk for more great news and lists. Merry Christmas everyone, and jam that jam.